Being a social worker means you will never be bored, you will always be frustrated, you will always be surrounded by challenges, so much to do and so little time. You will carry immense responsibility and have very little authority. You will step into people's lives and you will make a difference. Some will bless you, some will curse you. You will see people at their worst and their best. You will never cease to be amazed at people's capacity for love, courage, and endurance. You will see life begin and end. You will experience resounding triumphs and devastating failures. You will cry a lot. You will laugh a lot. You will know what it is to be human and to be humane. Author unknown. This is Robin Garvey, and this is my Capstone Project. Hi everyone! So this is my Capstone Project. I made this tree out of real wood, real moss, artificial leaves, and artificial flowers inside a wooden box. I wanted my Capstone Project to represent growth, as I feel that the MSW journey that I've been on through Renaissance has been the biggest growing experience for me as a social worker, but also in my my personal self as well. I wanted to be able to do this program to prove more to myself that I was capable of doing so. So trees are the universal sign of growth and strength, and trees can be a metaphor for many different things. But trees and social work have a rather strong metaphorical connection between them. Much like a social worker, trees stand tall, they have long branches that stretch out and connect to other things that grow in nature, they go with the flow of the wind, they're deeply rooted in the ground that's below them, and they provide shelter if needed. Trees can be old, young, grow at different rates, they can be all different types and serve different purposes. Trees need sunshine, water, and natural air to live. So prior to starting this program, I'd been working for the last 5 years as a care coordinator with the Central Inn, and before this program, I didn't think that I was social worky enough to pursue my MSW. I remember walking in on the first day of the Summer Institute thinking that I would not be social worky enough or wouldn't have as much experience compared to my colleagues, and I remember on the second or third day kind of thinking I'm exactly where I need to be. So since the Summer Institute, I've now transitioned into a new role. I'm actually a social worker with North York General Hospital on an acute medical floor, and I really enjoy it, and this was just another area of growth, or another way that I've grown. So for my project, I built this tree inside of a wooden box because I wanted this to kind of represent the support that the tree is being provided with. And I wanted this to represent the friends, the family, my support system throughout this journey. I used real sticks and real branches because I wanted to represent nature, or have it connected to nature in some way. Nature is a huge part of my self-care as a social worker. Although I live in Toronto, downtown Toronto, where there's lots of skyscrapers and things, I wanted to try and incorporate nature as best I can, because when I am feeling a little bit burnt out, or if I'm feeling stressed or anxious about work or my clients, I do like going for nature walks. So I also attached flowers to the branches. Some flowers are bloomed and some have not bloomed yet. I wanted this to represent me as a practitioner, me as a social worker, the areas and skills and knowledge that I have bloomed in, and areas, maybe skills that I have not yet bloomed in, or I'm still learning and figuring it out. So as I reflected on the concept of a tree and how this relates to my MSW journey, I thought about all trees not being identical to one another. So there's many different things that can affect the way that a tree grows and develops, such as the elements. Too much rain, not enough rain, too much sunshine, not enough sunshine. And I thought about the way that this represents our social determinants of health. This was a concept that was first brought up at our Summer Institute 1-week intensive, and it was right then and there where I understood that this was going to be a consistent concept throughout the entirety of our program. The Social Determinants of Health, written by McConan and Raphael, kind of acted as an essential tool that I referenced to many, many times throughout this program. For almost all of the classes. And it was during my placement experience at Humber River Hospital in the intensive care unit where I understood firsthand how the social determinants of health can really impact all of us differently. So Humber River Hospital is surrounded by low-income housing. It's a hospital that serves a very diverse community, and it didn't take me long to understand and recognize that the severity of the illnesses that people were coming in with or being admitted with were a direct result of the inequities in the community. One of the biggest areas of growth for me was in my placement experience at Humber River Hospital. This was an eye-opening experience for me, and I'm so thankful I had this opportunity. I remember walking into the intensive care unit, not ever being on an ICU floor before, despite working in a hospital in my previous role, and thinking to myself, how am I going to be how am I going to do this role? How am I going to help these patients? How am I ever going to feel comfortable being a social worker in a role like this? And how am I going to be comfortable with these patients? Am I going to grasp this role? Am I going to make a change or a difference? So it was here where I really understood how our Canadian Association of Social Work Code of Ethics really impacts practice, specifically in the ICU where almost all the patients were on ventilators, and when you're on a ventilator, oftentimes you're not able to converse. It was value number one: respect for inherent dignity and worth of persons. That was an extremely important value that I held close to me throughout. Because these patients weren't able to converse, a lot of the time they're not able to tell you their wishes, their values, who's important to them, who's their support system. So it was really important to, if they weren't able to converse, despite this, respecting them with their dignity, and getting to know them as you would a patient that could converse. So speaking with their family to really find out what their wishes and beliefs and values are and what they would want for themselves, being on life support, having a feeding tube, those sorts of things. And I also learned in the intensive care unit when somebody is very, very sick how religion and culture often guide decisions that are made in the ICU. It was so important to respect these decisions, despite the decision maybe going against the advice of the medical practitioner. It was so important to uphold this value of respect of inherent dignity and worth of persons. This is what guided my practice and my supervisor's practice in the intensive care unit. So one of the theories that I saw this project connected to, and something that I utilized in my placement, particularly in the ICU, was strengths-based theory. When I was thinking about what I wanted it to represent, I wanted it to represent strength, but I also wanted it to represent growth. When I was in the ICU working with patients when they were very, very ill, very, very sick, it was so important for me to utilize this theory when working with them, because strengths-based theory is all about clients recognizing their own strengths to build their own self-determination and their own resiliency. So similar to strengths-based theories, one of the other theories that I learned in my placement that my supervisor taught me was solution-focused-based theory. So what this theory aims to assist clients in managing and coping with various struggles or challenges. Clients do know what they need to do in order to get through their struggle or their challenge, and by using solution-focused-based theory, this helps clients to recognize the skills that they may already have to overcome their challenges or struggles to make change for themselves. So another concept that was an area of growth for me was cultural competence or cultural safety. In my BSW, I studied from an anti-oppressive perspective, and being aware of my social location is always something that I'm aware of and I recognize. But through this course, through this journey, especially working at Humber River Hospital in the very diverse community, I was really able to understand how cultural competence and cultural safety can really assist in my practice, and especially right now with everything that's going on in the world, I think cultural competence and cultural safety is so important. And as a social worker, as social workers with our extra education, with our privilege, and with our strong voices, this is the most powerful responsibility that we can have. I wanted to do my MSW to prove it to myself that I was capable of doing it, and there's many things I learned along the way as part of my journey, and I made this tree to focus on growth because I grew immensely from this program, from the courses, from my entire journey, but I also grew as a person as well. I've matured, I've become more confident in my skills as a social worker, and I know that I am capable of a lot more than I think I am. I look forward to growing throughout my social work journey and utilizing everything that I have learned in my practice going forward. Thanks so much for listening.